rumors are swirling of potential ride removals at Kings Island, including Invertigo, the Bat, and Congo Falls. But what's really going on, and what could this mean for the future of Kings Island? Well, we have a lot to discuss, so let's get started. A couple of days ago, there were a few rumors being thrown around that the Bat at Kings Island, an era-suspended roller coaster opening up in 1993, could be removed following the upcoming season, which definitely at the time, unfortunately, made sense. We obviously know that Six Flags needs to come in and start saving some money, and one way they've been doing that at a couple of parks now is removing older and more expensive attractions to maintain. And with the Bat being over 30 years old now, with its manufacturer not being in business either, also helping parts be more expensive, and then not really being very popular and having great ridership, I mean, it unfortunately kind of makes sense. And as I've said before, if Six Flags was willing to remove Kingda Ka like that, I mean, why couldn't they do it to a much less popular coaster like the Bat? And look, I understand, they do need to save money. Like the Six Flags company, they're in about $3 billion in debt. Actually, correction, about $5 billion in debt. Which is, as you can tell, quite a bit of money. So, they need to cut operating expenses, and a good way to do that is to remove aging roller coasters that cost a lot of money to maintain. But here's why I think removing the Bat is not the greatest of ideas. With the kind of shift in the additions to Kings Island over these past couple of years, and with Kings Island's proximity to Cedar Point, I would assume the direction the Six Flags company would like to take Kings Island in is probably more of a family-focused direction. Because you have Cedar Point just about 4 hours away that's focused mainly on thrill coasters. And Cedar Point, it drives more attendance, probably makes more money and all of that. So it would make sense for them to not want to have two thrill parks kind of competing with each other, and one more thrill-focused park and one more family-focused park. I'm really beginning to wonder if Kings Island will receive more family editions in the future, and we're already kind of seeing that. We just got Snoopy's Soapbox Racers, now we're apparently getting another family coaster in 2026. But if they're trying to focus more on family-friendly coasters, I don't think Bat's the coaster to remove. It provides a really good stepping stone for a coaster like Banshee. It's obviously just another family coaster that pretty much anyone can ride. It's not too scary per se for younger guests and all that, but everyone's still going to have a fun time due to its fast-paced nature and everything. It's not super rough or anything like that too. Sure, it's definitely getting up there in age, but I wouldn't call it a super uncomfortable coaster by any means. And I still have a ton of fun riding it every time I go. So I really think that removing the Bat just isn't the greatest decision, because they have a much better option for removal. But before we talk about that, I do want to say if Bat is removed, I would say it's highly unlikely for the new 2026 family coaster to take its place. I'm thinking either probably Crypt building potentially, old Tomb Raider building. I think, especially given that they put out the survey for that, I feel like that could make a lot of sense and bring a really cool coaster concept to Kings Island too. Drop a like down below if you want to see a whole dedicated video on that. Or I think it's going to be the second option, which would be remove Invertigo and Congo Falls. So Invertigo opened up back in 1999, and it's an inverted Vekoma boomerang. And if you've ridden an old gen Vekoma boomerang, you know these are not the most comfortable ride experiences. And with these still having the old trains, the headbanging is pretty bad. It's also a shuttle coaster running one train, so the capacity is pretty horrendous. I wouldn't say it looks great either. It's also kind of hidden, so it could be hard to find for some guests. And it personally is not a ride experience for me, and I'm pretty sure quite a few people would agree. It can also make you nauseous, and it's really rough, and a lot of headbanging, give you a headache, all of that. And then obviously you have Congo Falls. It's a water ride, and it's not really very popular, to be honest, because of how wet you get. You are getting drenched every time you go on that. It almost never has a line, even on those really hot summer days. So I feel like removing these two coasters, I mean, neither are very popular, neither have great capacity, and neither really add a super unique or memorable experience to the park. Obviously, I know Invertigo is unique and everything, but it's just not really a good ride experience. And I think the Bat is a significantly better roller coaster than Invertigo. Now, I'm wondering, and I've kind of heard this thrown around a little bit, if they remove Invertigo and Congo Falls, they might be able to add that 2026 Family Coaster in that plot of land, because that opens up a very large plot of land right there. And then obviously add the new Family Coaster. But what if they tied in and rethemed Action Zone as a whole? Now, Kings Island has basically went and revamped every single area of the park besides Action Zone. They did it with Adventure Port, Area 72, Rivertown. I mean, Old Cody's pretty much stayed the same, but that's the point. They're not doing it with Camp Snoopy. Like, Action Zone's the last major part, like, section of the park that is in need of a retheme. And I think if they make, like, a super immersive, cool themed, like, Family Coaster, and then help to kind of theme, or, like, maybe not theme necessarily the rest of the rides around it, but theme Action Zone to something else and something a lot better, I personally feel like that sounds really good and really cool. And just overall be a really solid addition for Kings Island. Now, before you start saying, well, what about the Vortex plot of land? That's still empty. And look, I understand it too. Trust me, I would much rather them throw an Intamin multi-launch coaster in the Vortex plot of land to do any of this. But I think at the moment, the budget just does not allow for such a major investment, which is super unfortunate too. And I feel like, unfortunately, Kings Island probably does have to cut back on operation costs somehow, and they're going to have to do that by removing either Invertigo or the Bat. And I really do not think the Family Coaster is going in the Vortex plot of land. I just don't think it really makes sense. I think, maybe not saved is the right word, but I feel like that plot of land, it should at least, I feel like, be reserved for a more thrill-centric attraction. Whereas if they want to remove Invertigo and Congo Falls and throw in a nice, super fun, family-friendly coaster in the front, I feel like that could totally work. And with a retheme of Action Zone, you could really make a cool and immersive area. Especially, like, with how well they, like, themed everything around Adventure Port. Like, the food and the atmosphere and just the general theming of the rides in that area. I know it was small, but it was done really well still. And I think if they can pull something like that off with on a larger scale, like how they did with Adventure Port for Action Zone, I think that could end up being one of the best, if not the best, area of the park. And I think if a major coaster is just not in the cards for Kings Island at the moment, then I feel like that's a pretty good second option. But here's my worst case scenario for all of this. Let's say Kings Island removes the Bat, alright? And then they replace they put the Family Coaster in maybe the Vortex plot of land or something like that. I feel like that's my worst case scenario because I'm biased because I really enjoy the Bat. And then that Vortex plot of land's kind of being wasted per se. I don't know. I highly doubt that, but let's just keep our fingers crossed. So let's run over the potential scenarios for all of this. So I think our worst scenario is, as I just mentioned, remove the Bat and then throw the Family Coaster in like Vortex or something like that. That's pretty bad. And I think our second worst options, again, remove the Bat, not great, and then put the Family Coaster in the old Tomb Raider building. Now I think, again, that has a lot of potential to be very cool, but I don't like the Bat removal. And then I think for our best case scenario of all this is remove Congo Falls and Vertigo, put a nice Family Coaster up front, retheme Action Zone, and we're all happy. But I think we really need to keep an eye on Kings Island and what they're going to be doing, because this could become a very interesting whole project. And of course, if you guys do want to stay up to date on all of the latest theme park news and rumors, etc., then make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out. I think this project could turn out really cool, and I really hope the Bat doesn't get removed. But next time you're at Kings Island, make sure to ride the Bat just in case. Or in Vertigo if you care about that too. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below, subscribe for more coaster content coming your way, and of course, as always, thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next one.